Okay, still May 7th. See, this is where you get into your double shifts, right? Like the good old days. Where you do like 16, 18 hours straight. Anyway, it's 8:30 at night. These are my roots from yesterday. I've been just letting them air dry. I washed them really good last night. And right now I've just been letting them air dry because I knew I was going to go outside and get me some more. Right? Only because I'm digging. So, what I've decided to do, I'm kind of tired, but that's okay. Since my kale needs to be harvested, right, I am going to do the same thing like I did last night with my first batch, right? And then I already rinsed these ones off outside a little bit. So that's okay. Right, look at that. I picked off all the things that I basically didn't want. Right? And I am going to cut off the roots now. And then put these in here like that. And they're pretty clean. But so I'm probably, and they're like a good feel, right? So I'll probably just put them in a bag for tonight because I'm kind of tired, right? So I'm just going to put them in a bag tonight, and then tomorrow I am going to, so just take out whatever, right? And then tomorrow I'm going to get my kale, and I think what I'm going to do is dice them, and I'm going to cook them. They recommend garlic with a little bit of lemon, right? And a bit of salt. And I'm going to do that like chop it, right? Big, you'll see tomorrow. I'll do this tomorrow. And then in my big pot, just real fast. And I'm going to bag them. I'm going to freeze them with my kale. And I'm going to mix the kale with this. And then treat it like a spinach. Only I don't want to eat that. Now you can eat the stems. I took off all the stems, but for the sake of eating every part of the dandelion, you can eat that too. So we'll leave that one there. Right? But for the most part, I'm not doing anything with the stems, right? Other than maybe giving them to the rabbit. So do you see what I'm doing here? So if you come across a dandelion patch, you know, if you're not doing it for the nutrients, right, it's definitely a good food source that you can either mix it in with spinach, kale, give it that little bit of a saute. Like, this is nice. This is really nice. Right? And then just bag it up into little bags. And freeze it. And then you'll have it. Right? Just make sure you label. Because if you don't label, you might forget what it was. So, that's what I'm doing now. So I'm going to do this whole thing. And then I'm going to give these roots a good wash. Right? And I'm debating whether I should keep them whole or cut them, because you can roast these. Now the last ones I did, I chopped them up real fine, right? It took a while, but I did it. And then I dehydrated it. Remember, if you dehydrate things, you're keeping 85% or more of your nutrients in the food. But these things, you can actually roast them in the oven and eat them like that, like you would a turnip or a carrot or a parsnip or something. Like you could put this in around your chicken if you were to roast chicken, I suppose, and eat it like that. So I'm debating whether I should dehydrate these as is, and then if I wanted to every now and then I could throw it in there, because it doesn't have to be just necessarily for a tea. But if you roast them, I think it changes the flavor a bit so that it comes out kind of like tasting like a coffee, and you would treat it with, you know, the sugar and or the honey, or right? So there's more than one thing. What I'm saying is that you can do with these. So that's what I'm doing now. So I think tomorrow is inside because I'm kind of tired. I'm a little worn out. Alright. And these ones here, I've been smelling them, right? You know, trying to get in my head that it's okay, you can eat, you can have tea, right? Or you can eat them even. You can cook them, like, you know. And I'm like, okay, this is how you do it. Nice and clean. I've been letting them air dry. And I've been smelling them, trying to figure out, like, to put a name to what I'm smelling. Right? And the first thing that I'm noticing, I guess it is kind of a little bit like a nutty flavor. Because if you roast them, right, it ends up becoming, what is it called? Kind of like a coffee. So if you're a coffee drinker and you're looking to cut back on the caffeine, that might be an alternative, right? Or if you can't afford to buy coffee anymore, or very little coffee, depending on your circumstances, I'm going to wash these again tomorrow before I saute them. Then this might be a really healthy and cheap alternative, providing that you can find these in your area where they're, you know, fairly organic. Because for what it's worth, why not? Especially in these times, right? So, tomorrow I'll make my salad. I'll make my salad, and I'll do a little video. Oh, there was something I was going to put in it. Oh, yes, those little chicken things. Those little chicken things. So I'll make the salad tomorrow. We know I'm going to saute these with the kale that I have outside, with some garlic, a tad bit of lemon. I always like my salt. And then I'll bag them up. I'm going to label my bag. I'll freeze them. And you can put them in soup. You know, put them in anything, any kind of meal you want. Just heat them up like that. Right? I like vinegar with my spinach. So, you know, vinegar is an alternative. Some people like, what is that called? Apple cider vinegar. You know, they can use that. So, this is a Dandylion fest. Right? I don't really have much to say. I'm tired. All talking about the same crap. Sound like those politicians. Like a broken record. Right? Well, we're not too sure when we're going to open up the economy. We're going to do it in stages. Right now we're just going into the first stage. But we've got 4 stages to go. They're canceling people. They've closed down all the bars. The pubs. They're not allowing, what is that called? Football games. Again, I'd said yesterday, they want you to watch the hockey on wherever they are going to broadcast it. This is bad. Kids aren't allowed to play with other kids. The new lingo is be in your bubble. Right? Double your bubble. In other words, if you know, like for in terms of like how to determine how many you can have in a group as you social distance yourself basically within that group, right? And if all you have is 2 friends in your bubble, then you should have no more than two new friends come into that bubble. And I'm thinking of, remember the old Google, what was that thing? What was that thing called? Google something. Where you had your, what is it called? Circle. Right? Your circle. They've brought the internet right into your home now, where you have to stay within your circle. Right? They've closed down all the bars, people. Now, let me tell you something about BC. BC is a stuffy province. We have Satanism out here, okay? Which, you know, has its own issues. But yet, on the other hand, we've got an overzealot religious overtone that impedes and infringes on people's freedoms. What they've done now by removing pubs and bars and, you know, events, concerts, like, if you're, like, I'm tired. If you're a news reporter and your job was to report on, you know, the activities of the nightclubs and the football games and, you know, the concerts that were coming to town, if that was your job, well, guess what? You don't have that job anymore because everything's shut down, and some doctor, I haven't really quite figured out what kind of doctors we're dealing with here. I'm wondering what this doctor's specialty is, because God forbid I wouldn't want her being my doctor. Nope. Right? And, what was I saying? I don't even remember. Oh, I don't know, people. We're in bad shape. We're in bad shape. Now, just imagine this being spinach. If you liked spinach, you'd be in your glory. So what I'll do, just for the sake of it, after I've done this, I'm going to fill up my sink, and I'm going to give it one more good rinse, just because I only rinsed it outside. And then I'm going to just let it air dry for, in that, you know, let the water drain out just a little bit. And I'm going to bag it up exactly the way I bagged it up yesterday. And then tomorrow morning, I want to do a couple of things first. And then come afternoon, I'm cooking this stuff up. That's what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you tell I'm getting tired? Got nothing to say. Right. I don't think you'd want to eat that part, but you could eat the, I picked it off. You could eat the flour if you wanted to in your salad. Some people eat flowers. I don't eat flowers. I've never had to eat flowers. Right. You see how easy this is? This is really easy. Now, if you can just incorporate it into your diet where it becomes kind of routine, well, it's like those, what do you call those peels? Lemon and orange peels. You want a good dose of vitamin C? Chew on that. Right. Anyway, I don't know. I was talking about something there. I know. I stopped halfway through, midway. Right? I live to die, people. Okay, the world is a bad place. Canada's a shithole country. It's not as honorable as it likes to play itself out to be. Right? They've basically got everybody where they want them. Old people are dying by themselves. Right? Nobody's there to witness it. Okay? Nobody's there to defend them. And you've got all these healthcare workers running around telling people how to live their lives. So, considering what they did to ShaMay and what they did to Uncle John, none of us should be surprised. Right? It would be nice if I could get off this bandwagon with it, though, in terms of, you know, what else am I going to talk about? I listen to these politicians, I get so depressed. Oh, God, you don't know. Because, you see, I've already been gang-stalked. I've already had my family mistreated on several, not just one, not just two, several occasions by the very people that are now taking it outside of that box and applied it to all of society, basically. But of course, we know some people get a green light to do what they do. Right? I mean, there's that underground economy. They've got the buildings going up, but they've closed down the bars. Yeah, okay. Why? How do they expect people to, what happened to all those owners, bar owners, and, you know, what happened to the reporters that report on those types of business establishments within their, you know, editorial employment with, you know, some newscast agency or something, like a newspaper or something like that. Yeah. Not good. Houses still being sold. Right? You see how fast this is going? It's okay. I got a couple of stems in there. Took off that head. So I'm not too sure what I'm going to do with these stems this time. I already have a whole bunch cut up. Maybe I'll try roasting them. I don't know. I don't know what they mean by roasting. at what temperature do you roast dandelion roots? Right? Huh? Oh, these stumps that are in my yard, what they do is they put what they do is they create a thing such that is known as humus. Humus is like a mulch, but not really quite like a mulch. It's something that comes from wood that's had time to sit and decompose over a period of time to the point where it's not like a peat moss, but it has kind of similar texture, I guess you could say. Only humus is more richer. Right? City was complaining about my wood stumps. Well, first of all, when it's winter time and there's no plants around, of course that's all you're going to see, right? But when spring comes and summer, like now, it's coming now, right? You start to see the foliage around the wood, and then you begin to understand why you kind of need the wood. Assuming if you understand how nature works in the forest and how things grow, right? I'm wondering if the city doesn't want that kind of stuff because they want the wood for themselves, right? One man's junk is another man's treasure, right? The more wood stumps the city can get, the more it can create itself a revenue somewhere else. Because they have the raw material that they need in order to create humus. I've never had so much problem with one yard in all my life like I have had with this place. But if you notice, every year, little by little, it's getting nicer and nicer. For all this nicer and nicer stuff, it's been a real struggle. Right? A real struggle. So this is going pretty fast. Now I'm wasting your time. Right? Too lazy to turn off the camera. It's supposed to get you hungry. Almost done. Almost done. Yeah, those need to be rinsed off just one more time. And then let them just dry a little bit in the air. Drain out the water. And then boom, bam, bing, tomorrow I'm going to have some greens that are nutritious. I might try and I'll see. I'm gonna Google this and see how what temperature you roast these things at. I might try that, and then grind them up and maybe use it like a coffee, because I drink a lot of coffee. Uncle John got me started on coffee. I never used to drink coffee, so this is my bounty for today. You can see. It's a lot. And I have those other ones over there, so now I have enough to do something with. Plus, we've got another big basket full of those for what it's worth. Okay? Okay, so now it's May 8th next day, right? So I'm in the kitchen. I have little aches and pains Because I've been out in the yard exercising, people. So Andre says, why aren't we going outside today? I said, because Nana's kind of old and I have to give my body time to heal itself. I did 3 days in a row. Right? So what I'm going to do is those dandelions today. I'm listening to these politicians in my province. There's some
different approaches to dealing with this virus, but also a legacy of dealing with problems in
I'm
a
listening
way.
to a live.
Legacy costs in states like Illinois.
Can you hear it?
58% of their budget goes to pensions.
58% of their budget in Illinois goes to their pensions. Didn't I tell you that? It is the same ratio out here in British Columbia, Canada. 57%. And that's what you see on the Surface books. They have folders within folders, portfolios, right? Within their budget, where off the top, 57% goes directly into the public union sector in British Columbia, Canada. That dude just sat up there and said 58% of the state budget goes into the public union sector.
The Department of Justice say we are going to defend freedom and lead that example is a big deal. And as we confront all these ideas on how to deal with safety, it's important.
This is where you want a live. You know, you got your live running, and you just kind of listen, go about your day.
Sense of urgency that came in after 9/11 led to the expansion of the FISA and the Patriot Act.
So I've decided to take out a turkey.
Against many people, and very publicly against you, was really just to keep us safe, and just for now.
I'm going to go outside and cut.
We still have a chance to do that. But the temptation is always, but just to keep us safe. And some of the ideas with privacy, just to keep us safe at the CDC, tracing and quarantining and tracking everybody, could be just as dangerous. So it's good to safeguard against that. And then I think the last thing is we're talking about VE Day. The last time the planet had this much debt was after World War II, after the United States. So the Fed has been tremendous in trying to provide stability in the face of governments largely closing our economy. So we did owe it to people to try to provide the stability that we did. But most people realize that you can't print an entire year of GDP. So we do have to be cautious about unsettling the monetary system. It's worked great for us since Bretton Woods. We have been the world's reserve currency, and we wouldn't want to give that up.
So I'm cooking all that up
the amount of printing we're doing.
with my kale that's outside.
No lender, we're not really borrowing.
That's what I'm going to do.
And that's undermining the value of the full faith and credit of the United States.
And since I got a little room in my fridge now, I'm going to take out a turkey, I'm going to unthaw it, and then I'm going to can it. That's what I'm going to do. I need to free up my deep freeze a little bit so that when the blueberries come, I can go out to the farms. I like them in the boxes that haven't been washed. You just pick them, put them into the box, and you just take the whole box, put it in a plastic bag, and you just put it in the freezer, and it will sit forever. It's really, really good. You don't get no ice crystals on them, nothing. So I want to buy like 5 to 7 boxes, right? So I have to make room in my deep freeze down here.
Restaurant from Tucson up, but we also
get into those tomatoes that have been there for what, 2 years?
That are strong supporters. And
so here's a science experiment. I'm going to try this just for fun to see what happens. I don't think it will work, but some of those tomatoes, well, those tomatoes, right? They're all from my garden, and they've been in the freezer for 2-3 years now. I don't know. Anyway, I want to see what kind of state they're in. That's the first thing. Because they're in a box buried on down deeper into the freezer, right? And I'm going to take 1 or 2 of them, unthaw them, and then I'm going to put them in dirt. And then I'm going to see if their seeds will germinate. Wouldn't that be interesting if they did? Just as a little science experiment.
You should be able to come to Congress. So just so you know, the House Freedom Conference,
So I'm listening
we had
to all these
meeting
different
last night,
issues
meeting
around
every day
the
next week
coronavirus,
here
right?
in Washington, D.C. We want Speaker Pelosi
Okay,
to
I'll talk to you in a
ready
bit.
to work. We
And,
to represent the people. Thanks for your leadership.
You know, we're coming into a
Very much, Andy. Thank you.
food storage
President Andy Barr from
shortage.
Kentucky. Thanks for your leadership and for inviting us here today.
A food
I want to share with you
shortage.
3 quick stories from my district that illustrate how effective your administration has been in responding to this public health emergency. These stories have not been reported by the press.
And,
so I want to direct these stories to the press because they need to know how effective you all have been in responding
I'll add a
to
link
us and the American people.
to a person that was making comment about the meat industry shutting down in the United States. And we know that something is happening out here because the cost of beef went up like 400 to 500% in less than a month. Well, a week, really. Right? I mean, $10.49 for a pound of round beef it should be $1.99, people. So why is that happening? Is it because less cows are being slaughtered out here? Or are farmers hoarding their cows? Or like in the States, some animals are being killed, right? And then just buried versus it going into the food chain because the workers in the plants as a union want better work environments that requires more space, right? Which these facilities don't have. It's like ongoing nonstop.
That is a nationwide policy change that saves lives for healthcare workers and conserves.
You know, I'm thinking this little garden that I'm working with next door, right?
The next story is Steve Stone from Nicholasville, Kentucky. He works for Sagent Pharmaceuticals. He comes to us and
People are probably wondering why I'm doing it. Well, one in part, I don't like the weeds flying into my yard or growing into my yard. That's a big motivating factor.
There was a shipment of
and then 2, you know, I'd like to can some tomatoes this year if I could. Right, so
on your team.
I'm going to plant a few more tomatoes over there, and hopefully they'll grow this time. I'm going to try and enrich the dirt a little bit before I plant them. As I'm going along the fence, I'm finding different kinds of dirt, right? So I'm thinking to take dirt from over here and put it over there and mix it into the dirt. And then I've got fertilizer that I bought, a really quite big bag actually, and I'll just go about, and then Andre and I were going to run a little water system where I can just take my hose, attach it, and then it waters, right, versus trying to stand over the fence or watering it. And
a small business publication. We went to Mark Meadows,
if I can get it to grow to be a very abundant garden for what it's worth, and it, you know, my landlady will be looking over the fence. She'll be like, I want that one. That one over there. No, not that one. That one. Yeah, that one. That's the one I want. And then I come with this and I say, here. And then she walks away happy, right?
From Pennsylvania.
And then my neighbor over there, they're looking now, right? The ones that gave me those
from Penn State. Jim Jordan,
carrots for my books, right?
Of those Penn State wrestlers.
They'll be like, oh, and I'll be like, take, there's so much. And then the guys, as it's growing, I make sure I leave a little bit on their doorstep, right? So they get too, right?
The PPP in particular saved countless
It's only fair.
jobs. It has been a lifeline for the small businesses.
Last year, my landlady got some potatoes from that garden over there, right? I didn't plant potatoes in there though this year because, you know, I wanted to talk to the owner first. Right? I mean, last year was the first year. Now it's like, so, you know, as I'm what I'm trying to say is, as I'm growing food, I guess you could say for my neighbors, for a few people anyway, it's not just for me. I want tomatoes, right? So that's my mission for the year. And then just to have a more productive garden, but that yard is a big mess, so there's only so much you can do, right? And so that's where I get my satisfaction from. And if it can help to supplement a couple of meals along the way for other people, then it's, it makes me feel good, right, people? But then I turn on the YouTubes, right? And there's all this dysfunction where they're killing truckfuls of animals that should be, like, in our supermarkets. Some of us eat meat, right? Or even letting the vegetables pile up into one big pile, right? And spoiling. Where I'd be like, oh, I want those vegetables. Let's build ourselves this humongous dehydrating plant and dehydrate these vegetables. And I've been saying this, people, ever since I first started the nonprofit back in 1999, 2000. Build these food dehydrating processing plants that can take this food that's now being thrown away and dehydrate it and then put it in the big drums and ship them to wherever they need to go, whether it's a school with a kitchen that wants to make soup, or whether it's to a country that needs the food to feed its people. The point is that it's dehydrated, it keeps more than 85% of its nutrients, it can last a long time, and it can go a long way.
They need them to come back. And
that's not happening. What I see are piles of zucchinis rotting in the sun, right? I see politics interrupting the food supply because everybody's fighting for control, right? A lot of what's going on with the coronavirus is control. And, they're using key... Let me turn this down.
Mr. President, the prescription to get us back to work and healthy as an economy, quite honestly, is simple. And you already know it. You've already talked about it a million times. Let's just get back to work. Let's just get back to work. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Greg Murphy from Eastern North Carolina. I appreciate your strength, and I appreciate your...
You know what? I'm going to try and find some time. I'm going to upload this now, and I'll start my Dandylion thing fresh. Otherwise, it will be a 2-hour video. I don't even know what I was talking about. That's how tired I am. But I kind of want to go back on that video because it's live right now, right? But I can't sit there and... So, anyway. And listen to it and then maybe put my camera on and say, okay, Illinois said they have a 58% budget where that goes into pension plans and wages and blah, 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 blah. Well, actually, it doesn't even go into the pension plans, people. It goes into the wages. Just the well, maybe pension plans. I can't remember. I just know that 57% of the provincial budget in British Columbia, Canada, goes directly to support and prop up the public union sector, which doesn't leave very much money left for capital investments or maintenance or any of that other stuff, right? Especially when you're already working under a deficit. So, it doesn't make sense to throw away good food, right? If I had $2 million, people, honest to God, I would open up a dehydrating processing plant and I would employ people to dehydrate food so that it can be put back out into the community versus resign myself to let the food rot on the ground just because I have a political point to prove. That's why that garden next door is so important, because it's contrary to everything that's around me as I'm watching the policymakers, the movers and shakers, those kind of people make shitty decisions for millions of people. And I'm helpless to do anything about it because you've got symbolism centered around an orb in terms of, oh, this is a global thing, so therefore it makes it right. Or if it wasn't global, we wouldn't do it. Even though inside, deep down, we know that what we are doing is actually morally corrupt. This would be considered abusive if we were dealing with a child being separated and ostracized from the family and mistreated, right? Child Protective Services would consider that to be abusive, negligent, and a detriment to the well-being of the child, right? Mom and dad with the family or going out and having a barbecue, but Tommy has to stay home in his bedroom because he's the 9th child, right? And therefore, he doesn't get to run with the pack because the pack has somehow isolated him to a position where his choices are few. That's pretty much what the government has done to millions of people, which is a direct assault against their Charter of Human Rights, peace and liberty, those types of things, those types of civil rights issues, right? And they're using it they're trying to make you think like it's a bubble where it's a little, if you go outside the bubble, you're not only putting yourself at risk, but you might kill somebody by giving them something that you may or may not have, right? Which is all psychological warfare, as they're bankrupting millions of people. And then coming back and saying, well, obviously it's going to affect our budget, being that we don't get those taxes now, but under that global budget, under that global bubble, we're confined to play and stay with the same playbook. Because ultimately, that 57%, 58% of the total budget of the state or province is supporting those dictators within the public union sector, who all get paid first before anybody else, right? So I don't know if this is some political maneuver to be able to transfer funds from, like I said, like robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? Like right now, my government is being somewhat generous. They gave me $300 extra on my welfare check. I guess that was to cover the cost of beef, right? And for what? April, May, and June. What's going to happen after June? When they've got millions of people falling apart at the seams waiting for help from them. They're not going to give me much more, people. Not that I wanted that $300. If I had to choose between having that $900 or having society go back to normal, I would choose having society go back to normal. Because that $300 is going to end up costing $3,000 plus. And that's when another political party, like the BC Liberal government, will be elected in, and the first people that they're going to attack are the poorest of the poor and those below a certain income level. After the economy has been completely destroyed, right? As the union workers flourish, as the underground economy booms, that hasn't stopped people. That's why we got this construction going out here, because it hasn't stopped. That's why I could go out if I wanted to and go buy myself some fentanyl and come back home and what? Show you that I could do it? Because the underground economy is booming, right along with illegal organ harvesting, something that the provincial government doesn't want to acknowledge because they're too busy playing lip service to a public union sector by dubbing them as essential services, right? All in their global bubble. They're in the global bubble, but you're in a bubble where you can only have 5 people in your house before you get raided. I don't know. I feel really, really ill with what's going on. People are throwing away good food, right? Those who control the food control the society. Isn't that how it goes? Right? And we've already got millions of people on the brink of starvation here, especially in the USA. It's just not being reported on, people. If you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of cars, and this has been happening, and this food that the food banks in the United States have been giving out is surplus food that is being mainly, or was being donated from restaurants that were forced to shut down. Okay? And then they have their disposition, they're distributing it, right? Points, right? Where people drive up with their vehicles and they've got like miles long of vehicles in line waiting to get some food from these particular food banks that are recycling donations as they're coming in from businesses that have been shut down and now need to clear out their freezers. Okay? So if you've got 10,000 cars, which has been documented already, lined up to get some food from a place like that, what about the people that don't have cars and can't afford to drive miles away to go pick up some food, never mind have to wait in line for 7 hours to get that food as they're in a vehicle? Okay? This is the situation that these people that live in their bubble, their global bubble, has brought us down to, with a heavy hand. This is more than being draconian, okay? Because the things that they report on hasn't been fact-checked, all right? They're just throwing in numbers to keep you scared, huh? And they're using those numbers to fudge the budget, right? That's a political term, to fudge the budget, right? They're fudging the numbers, people. They're taking dollars from different portfolios and they're funneling it, first of all, into their union, right? Okay? And then into, well, in this case, the healthcare system, right? Making sure that the union is not overworked in terms of capacity, right? I mean, like for example, this is how they save money, okay? Out here. This is just an example how I see it. Because I'm trying to internalize and understand what these motherfuckers are doing. I want to know what these motherfuckers are doing, okay? Because these motherfuckers are doing something. Okay? So if they cut out 30,000 elective surgeries over the last, we'll say, 2 months, okay? Because of the coronavirus. So 30,000 people didn't get their surgeries because of this global bubble, right, that these globalists want us to live in under their rule. And it's not it's heavier than a draconian hand, okay? Then how much money did they save from doing that in terms of financially going into the healthcare budget? Right? Like, look how much money they spent keeping ShaMay's body hooked up to machines to be theatrical about their shenanigans. Okay? So let's multiply ShaMay by 30,000 in quantum numbers in terms of the provincial budget, that under that particular portfolio of how much money they didn't have to pay out by allowing those 30,000 surgeries to go through. And now that they're reopening up the province, let me stay focused, right? They're reintroducing a plan through their global bubble, because we can't move forward until the mayor of New York says it's okay, and this person over here in this country says it's okay, because that's how they play safe. This is how they don't have to be accountable to their own people that they were elected to represent. Because as far as they're concerned, they're in the ballpark of all these other dictators that come in with their draconian laws and rules and regulations with threats and fines, right? And so that removes them from being culpable to how they're treating the people that they're supposed to represent, because it's somebody else's problem. Well, the mayor said over there it's not the right way to do it. So therefore he said the science says, because the scientists over there said that we can't move forward. So, but we know that society is ready to fucking snap here, right? We only have so much military to control the unruly masses. So we got to keep them a little more fucking quiet, break them down a little more, right? So we'll let them think that we'll start allowing those 30,000 surgeries to go through. So we're at that stage now. We're in stage 2 now. Right? Yay! Everybody gets to have their surgery now. Ooh! However, just because it's psychological warfare, it's Tommy sitting in his bedroom saying, don't breathe, don't move until I tell you so. I'll let you know when you can come out. Okay? You just wait for me and don't move until I come tell you. So these people, they're waiting now, right? They're waiting to find out how they can get their surgery. Well, the government has decided that you got to have this, your temperatures, blah, blah. You got to have your toenails cut, right? Blah, you got to make sure that your fucking ears are cleaned, right? You got to be sprayed down. You're going to start spraying down people with shit. Right? And you just might get lucky and get your surgery. Right? And then they throw in the fear, but some people don't want to have surgery because they're too scared. So what? Are my politicians out here? Well, in that case, it's their choice. They can decide whether they want it or not. We'll try and bring in the best practices in terms of safety, and, we'll make sure we check your temperature every 2 minutes, just like, we were doing before. And, and I don't know, people, how much money did they save from canceling 30,000 surgeries over a course of 2 months, created a backlog where, some people are going to move forward in it and some people are going to stay exactly where they are? What did they do with that money that they saved? Where did it go? To me, with that $300 extra for 3 months, that's all I got for my family from the provincial government. Because I'm on welfare, so I'm not entitled technically to that money. Because I've already made the agreement that, I settle for what they give me as it is. Right? But what about all those other people out there that aren't on social assistance? Hell, Ciera was on social assistance, and I won't say 3/4 of the time, but a good third of the time, people, they weren't giving her money on time. She was having lots of problems collecting her, what was it that she was getting? $310 a month to live on, homeless. So anyway, they saved themselves a whole whack of money and they funneled it somewhere else, although they are funneling it into the healthcare system because, they want more this and more that and more. But at the same time, they're making it so that their workers are, anyway, I don't want to think about this stuff. You know, I say, oh, don't turn on the computer and listen. You don't have to listen, Judy. If you don't listen, you don't know. And if you don't know, you don't care. Right? That's what I tell myself. Because it's so nerve-wracking. Like I want to get aboard, and I just don't have time, people. Right now I just don't have time to be making wipeout boards, and but there is a political agenda here. Listen to the key words: global, bubble, right? Circle. These are key words that these politicians are throwing out, right? As you've already been preconditioned to be in your circle through Google Hangouts or whatever, right? Different freaking social media has already brought the bubble, the circle, the global, right, agenda forward. Now it's the politicians that are ramming it home. And you have to ask yourself, what is the political agenda? And so after this, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back on because I want to listen to it. I want to see what all these different states have to say in terms of what they're facing. Even though I kind of already know, right? And get on with my dandelions. And I'll pull out a turkey and I'll unthaw the turkey, and maybe in a couple, 2-3 days after my turkey's unthawed, I'll can that turkey. That's what I'm going to do, people. I'm going to can that turkey.